Hello, my dear students of Honors First Year. I welcome you all to this online platform. And here, this is Shongita Sharkar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Government BM College, Borishal. I think all of you are well and staying at home. Now, I am going to start my today's session. Here, I will take a class on the course that is Introduction to Prose. And my today's topic is The Garden Party by Kathleen Mansfield. You know, I have taken already 4 classes in the department, and you may say this is my final and last class on the garden party. If I get more chance, then I will take another class on garden party. But if the situation will not permit me, then I will go on for another topics. At first, we have to know about the writer. Here, the writer, Kathleen Mansfield. Kathleen Mansfield Mori, this is the full name. She was born in 14th October 1888 and died in 9th January 1923. She was a prominent modernist writer, born and brought up in New Zealand. She wrote short stories and poetry under the pen name Kathleen Mansfield. At the age of 19, she left colonial New Zealand and settled in England. Mansfield was diagnosed with pulmonary tuberculosis in 1917. She died in France at the age of only 34. This is the picture of that writer, Kathleen Mansfield. The biography of Kathleen Mansfield. The family moved to several New Zealand locations during Kathleen's youth, which she later used for inspiration for her stories. So, we may say that she got the stories for writing. She collected those inspiration or those stories theme from the different places of New Zealand. In 1898, the family settled in Wellington in a much larger home to reflect their increasing wealth and social status. This was the setting that inspired Mansfield's short story, The Garden Party. Mansfield graduated from Wellington Girls' College, London in 1903. Mansfield published her first short stories in school newspapers and literary magazines and decided on the professional name Kathleen Mansfield. As an editor of her college newspaper, Mansfield found her life's work and decided to become a writer. She began to write short stories and was first published in the Native Companion, an Australian publication. As an Australian publication, she began her writing on the short stories, and that was firstly published in the Native Companion. Actually, this is about some information on the life, on the biography of Kathleen Mansfield. In every text, before starting every text, we have to know about the writer's personal life, the setting of the story, and from where she got the inspiration or she got the source for making such a story or such a novel or such a poem. In every case, we should know about the background first. Then, the title of the story Today's short story is garden party. So we have to know what is party actually. A party is a gathering of people who have been invited by a host for the purposes of socializing, conversation, recreation, or as a part of a festival or other commemoration of a special occasion. A party will typically feature food and beverages and other music and dancing or other forms of entertainment. In many Western countries, parties for teens and adults are associated with drinking alcohol such as beer, wine, or distilled spirits. Actually, this is not our culture. This is related to Western countries and also the aristocratic society. You may say this is a picture of such type of gathering. You may say this is a scene of a party. They are taking alcohol and making a gathering, making some gossips, some noise and some enjoyment also here. About the short story, The Garden Party. The Garden Party is a short story by Catherine Mansfield. It was first published at The Garden Party in three parts. In the Saturday Westminster Gazette on 4th and 11th February 1922. Its luxurious setting is based on Mansfield's childhood home at 133 Chinakori Road, that is originally numbered 75. The second of three houses in Thornton, Wellington, that her family lived in. This is the character list from the Garden Party. Here we see these are the characters. They played their role in the story. At first, Laura Sheridan, Mrs. Sheridan's daughter. She is the protagonist here. Mrs. Sheridan's wife and mother of Laura, Lori, Meg, and Dose. She handed over the charge of the garden party to Laura. Lori Sheridan here, Laura's brother, the workers who put up a marquee in the garden. Mr. Sheridan, Mrs. Sheridan's husband, on the day of the party, he goes to work but joins the party later that evening. Meg Sheridan, a second daughter, Dose Sheridan, a third daughter. Then Kitty Maitland, a friend of Laura and a party guest. Sadie, a female house servant. Hans, a male house servant. The florist, who delivers lilies ordered by Mrs. Sheridan. Then Cook, Godber's man, the delivery man who brings the cream puffs. Mr. Scott, a lower class neighbor who had just died. Em Scott, the deceased widow, and then another character is Em's sister. No name is mentioned here, only Em's sister. These are the character list. You have to know very well about the characters first. Then I have settled here a brief summary, but this is my request to you. Please read out the whole text at first, and minutely you should read the text first. Then you should find out the character list and you should read the summary, and lastly you will take your preparation on some questions. The wealthy Sheridan family prepares to host a garden party. Laura is tasked with instructing the workers on the placement of the marquee. Her hot air quickly turned into an admiration for the working men with whom she feels a personal connection. Laura's mother, Mrs. Sheridan, has ordered messes of lilies to both their delight. Laura's sister Meg and Dose and their servant Hans move furniture around to accommodate the party. Accommodate the piano. Dose tests the piano and then sings a song in case she is asked to do so again later. You see, there are some lines he mentioned here. She was trying to play the piano, and then there was a sound or there was a music that like ti ta ta ta, such type of music was pronounced, music was played by those. After serving the food in the kitchen, Laura and Dose learn that their working class neighbor, Mr. Scott, has died. While Laura believes the party should be called off, then neither Dose nor their mother agrees. When the evening comes and the family is sitting underneath the marquee, Mrs. Sheridan tells Laura to bring a basket full of leftovers to the Scott's house. Laura is led into the poor neighbor's house by Mrs. Scott's sister, sees the pitiable figure of the window, and is led to the late husband's corpse. Here, Laura is intrigued by the sublimity of the face, and she finds his face in death just as beautiful as life as she knows it. Having fled the house, Laura meets her brother Laurie at the corner of the lane. She finds herself unable to explain life and death concisely, and Laurie understands that his sister has come to realize her own mortality. So, at first, after coming back from that house, then Laura came to understand what is life is and what is death is actually. What's the major theme? So this is the summary. I have mentioned here within 3 slides. You have to read the text first and you have to read the summary in short. Then this is the major theme. Here I have mentioned class consciousness, illusion versus reality. Laura feels a certain sense of kinship with the workers and again with the Scotts. An omniscient narrator also explains that as children, Laura, Dose, Meg and Laurie were not allowed to go near the poor neighbors' dwellings, which spoiled their vista. Illusion versus reality. Laura is stuck in a world of high class housing, food, family, and garden parties. She then discovers her neighbor from a lower class has died, and she clicks back to the reality upon discovering death. Sensitivity and insensitivity. The Sheridans hold their garden party as planned, complete with a band playing music. Laura questions whether this will be appropriate, discovering the death of their neighbor only a few hours earlier. Actually, when they got the news that a neighbor has died, then Laura wanted to stop the party and she make a question, what should we do now? Whether the music should run now, the band should go now or not. But she didn't get any support from Sheridan's family. Death and life. The writer handles the theme of death and life in the short story. The realization of Laura that life is simply marvelous shows death of human beings in a positive light. Death and life coexist, and death seems to Laura merely a sound sleep far away from troubles in human life. Actually, death is like a sleep. Laura thinks that it's merely a sound sleep far away from troubles in human life. Literary significance. The text is written in the modernist mode without a set structure and with many shifts in the narrative. Mansfield was seen one of the prime innovators of the short story form. So it's one kind of new form that is started by Catherine Mansfield. The Garden Party is considered one of Mansfield's best known works, perhaps because of its autobiographical undertones. So here we see the setting and the autobiographical tone here. Actually, she got the story from her personal life also. So here we see there is a touch of her personal life in the story Garden Party. And from the text you have to take preparation for your exam, and there was a suggestion for your first in-course examination is already started, and there you see some questions. Actually here I have mentioned only some questions for your understanding, but you have to read many more questions from the text. What is the real name of Catherine Mansfield? Who is Laura? You have to know who is Laura, who is Mrs. Sheridan, who is Laurie, who is Dose, who is Mr. Scott. Actually about the characters. What was the Scott? How did Scott die? How did the dead man look? Why did Laura want to stop the party? These are some questions, brief questions, and some short questions also. What is the garden party? Discuss the class consciousness in the garden party. How did the death affect Laura? And at last, you have to take preparation on some broad questions for your final exam that will carry 10 marks for each question. A critical summary of the text, 18th century social picture, character analysis of Mrs. Sheridan, character analysis of Laura Sheridan. So in this way you have to take your preparation, and if I get time then I will take another class on garden party, or if you need another class on these topics, please inform me through the comment section. And till then, take care and stay at home, stay safe. Please stay with your study, and thank you very much. Thank you all. So be connected with, I will say again, be connected with your study, stay at home and stay safe.